Let us move to the next segment of our program. Our next speaker is Dr. Rajesh Tandon. Dr. Rajesh Tandon is the founder president of Participatory Research in Asia, as we call it PRIA, a global research and training center on participatory research. Dr. Tandon was the founding chair of Civicus, a global alliance of civil society organizations and international forum for capacity building. Since 2012, Dr. Tandon is UNESCO co-chair on social responsibility in higher education. He currently serves as the chairperson of Forum for India's Development Cooperation, a partnership platform with the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. Dr. Tandon, you are most welcome.
Thank you, Kaustav. Wonderful highlights of the plight of minimum wage and unskilled blue-collar worker by Subratoji, and Yasmin's erudite uh, appeal to focus on children, but focus on them in a different way than just providing some service. I'm delighted to be a part of this session, which began with Srimati Birlaji, and learned about the work that they are doing. Um, I, in preparation for this session today, I was thinking about where I am, where I came from, and how did this happen. And let me tell you a small story. When I was when I finished my MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, and was offered a lecturership in the institution, I was encouraged to do PhD in management. But during Institute of Management time in Calcutta, I had developed deeper interest in organizational challenges, including even then I wrote a paper on management of primary education in India in 1972. I went to US to Case Western Reserve to do a PhD in program on organizational behavior. But I wanted to do my fieldwork in India. Emergency was declared in India, and I came back and through fortuitous circumstances landed up in the Kherwada block of Udaipur district of southern Rajasthan, where then Bhai Sahab, Dr. Mohan Sinha Mehta, told me, you want to do something about rural development, go and look there. My research question was, how come Government of India's rural development programs do not reach those who are far away, marginalized, and distant? And I worked over the next 1 year pretending to do my PhD and collect data for the same with 25 tribal villages of that block. I came back and wrote about the need for bottom up, participatory, and empowering approach to development, not just top down, uniform, one size fits all to development. I went back to teach at IIM Calcutta, but my heart wasn't there. I realized that I could make some small contribution to improve the lives of these people, though not as a farmer, but more as somebody who had a training of mind during 5 years of IIT Kanpur, 2 years of management, and some PhD time. And so, after leaving IIM Calcutta job and National Labour Institute job in 1980-81, I began to set up PRIA along with others. At that time, I looked around various government schemes and programs. I looked around development theory being talked about, and I didn't find enough emphasis on bottom-up, participatory, locally led development, which respected local knowledge, which built local capacity and leadership, and which valued local collaborative design of development solutions. So over the next 10, 15 years, that is what I devoted myself to. Priya began to do this kind of work in many different fields. But in the process, I discovered that there were many thousands like me, and I wasn't alone. There are many who had been devoting themselves to improving the lives of the people, and in those days, we were called voluntary organizations. The phraseology of civil society had not been a popular discourse till 1991, 92. But there were a large number of young people, men and women, medical doctors, engineers, people from nursing profession, from law, who dedicated themselves in one small area somewhere of their liking to support those who were excluded, who were not being able to improve their lives. They had enormous commitment and passion. So very soon I realized that what brought me to this was not a job. I didn't come to do a job. Neither I came to be a professional, because a large number of community organizers, barely eighth grade pass, were exceptional professionals if you look at community organizing as a profession. A large number of literacy workers with whom I worked in many states in the early 80s were literacy workers with exceptional professionalism because they devoted themselves to this cause. They may lack some competence which can be built, but they were real professionals. And so, over these years, over these 40 years, there is now, I'm proud to say, an increasing biradari of young people who want to make a contribution to improve the society in the ways in which my previous speakers have talked about, in the ways in which Yasmin and Subrato and Srimati Birlaji spoke. So how do they come and do this? What happens when they start working like this? Many people did not want to work in the government. Many left corporate jobs or did not enter into them because they made a choice. And it is important for us to be able to stand up to that choice. Each choice we make in life has ups and downs. But each of us would like to be respected for the choice we make. So those of us who work in the civil society sector, who work in the non-governmental sector, who work in voluntary sector, those who work outside government, outside business, also need respect. So what has happened to this? I went to IIT Kanpur on 40th reunion of my batch. And because I was the general secretary of the union when I was at IIT, a professor got up and said, this batch is known as Rajesh Tandon's batch. But in the evening, informally, many of my batchmates asked me, so Rajesh, what else did you do? What else did you do? Ah, you do. That's all you did? And many of them have since then become philanthropists. They've made a lot of money, many in Silicon Valley. And they give to good causes. But they became philanthropists after they'd made money. So that's why they asked the question, that's all you did? What else did you do? I want to tell you the story of our experience in working together with the government over the last 40 years. I recall that in 1985-86, when the new government of late Sri Rajiv Gandhi came to power, Wasteland Development Board was set up with Kamla Chaudhary, late Kamla Chaudhary, as the first vice chair. It was commonplace for people working in social forestry, wasteland development, rural development, tribal development. It was commonplace for all of us to be invited to regular consultations in framing policies and programs of wasteland development, including in designing practical solutions on the ground. I remember in 1986, the National Education Policy was being reviewed. And again, a similar process was happening. In 1995, when the government of late Sri Narasimha Rao came to power, similar consultations happened with the leadership of the Secretary to the Prime Minister, Cabinet Secretary, defining programs and protocols of cooperation and sharing platforms with mutual respect. I recall April 2002, when the then Planning Commission, organized a program of partnership with voluntary organizations in Vigyan Bhavan, and I shared the platform with late Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And we both talked about sharing common purpose, though choosing different routes. We did not want to be a political party, and neither Atal Bihari ji wanted to be a voluntary organization. But the desire to work together, despite our differences, was explicit, manifested, practical. A similar experience happened during the time when Sri Mani Shankar Iyer became the Minister for Panchayati Raj in 2004. Many people do not know, but the annual reports of the ministry for first 3 years used to be written by many of us to support the government because it lacked capacities, documentation, data, but our names never appeared on it because that did not matter. That did not matter. What mattered was our knowledge, our expertise was respected and valued, and we were treated as equals. We were not as powerful. We did not have that large room that the minister had. Or when Jugandarji was in Planning Commission, we sat together to design programs for empowering panchayats. But those programs were designed on the basis of local knowledge that several hundred voluntary organizations had produced. I'm sharing this to you because when we talk about collaboration, let us not forget that we are dissimilar types. Government is government, duly elected democratically, run by political leaders and a large number of appointed officials. Business runs for profit, legitimately so, and must do so. We in the civil society operate on slightly different principle. We operate on principle of empowering the excluded. We operate on the principle of certain values. Yesterday was a Constitution Day. I was delighted that our president read out the preamble of the Constitution. I'm sure you all remember that preamble. Equality, justice, fraternity. So that's what inspired us, continues to inspire us. We bring to the table of collaboration our assets, social capital, local connectedness, relationships of trust in the community. Business brings technology, finances, managerial expertise. Government builds policies, laws, public investment. We have different sets of assets when we come together. And when those assets converge, we produce the best solutions. We produce the best solutions of the type Srimati Birla mentioned or Yasmin was aiming at. But we also come together and raise questions of each other. Subrata raised questions about migrant labor. That question about migrant labor, Subrata, should also be asked of each and every employer. And our co-sponsors of this conference, FICCI, and other associations should be asking of their employers. When civil society, therefore, talks about migrant labor, it will raise questions about accountability of employers, household employers to corporate employers. And that question is legitimate. It is not intended to harass or intimidate. It is only to bring a particular experience or a point of view to the table. I remember in conversations during IRDP program in late 1980s, when for a brief period of time our exceptional leaders, including Ilaben and late Sri L.C. Jain, were members of the Planning Commission, we sat together to design a program of bottom-up reporting of whether services had reached the poor or the vulnerable. Sort of whether the Antyodaya was working in practice on the ground. And those were the pre-technology app or mobile app days. I'm talking about late 80s. And one of the members around the table who came from a southern state, which was doing very well in the eyes of the Planning Commission, made a joke. He said that if we compile all the data that has been provided by the state government, he was referring to his state, for digging wells, every person of the state would be inside the well because the entire land would have been covered by well. Fake well, paper well. Now, to raise question about this is our responsibility. It's our duty. We are accountable to community to bring such questions to the table. And they are inconvenient questions. They are difficult questions. So when we want to collaborate, let us not assume that everybody will agree on everything. There is a shared purpose. We have different cultures, different styles, different expertise, different resources we bring to collaboration. And therefore, we must have the capacity. I would say we must have the stomach, or a more modern word, resilience, to be able to accept questions from each other, to raise questions about our collaboration, and to resolve them with mutual respect and a spirit of collaboration. This has become a serious problem. In the days when I am reaching the end of my long journey, I am pained to say that that trust, that respect for the work that my Biradari does, my fraternity does, has disappeared. There were occasions in the past we never had funding. There were occasions in the past we lacked resources. There were occasions in the past we could not pay even meager salaries to our community organizers. But we carried on. We carried on because we felt encouraged, we felt recognized, and we felt trusted and valued by government. Business was not so much in the play. Business came into play more in the last decade with CSR and other trends. But business was in our eyesight. Today, Subrata gave a wonderful example of what happened to the workers, our minimum wage mindset, who have been refugees from their own homes. Let me remind all of you that the same fate applies to 100 million tribals in this country, 7.5% of our population, who over the last 60, 70 years have been displaced repeatedly. And many of them have turned into beggars. People with self-respect, with local knowledge, with local wisdom, people whose ecological sense is today seen as resilience for climate change. those people were displaced repeatedly. And when civil society raised questions, we were labeled as anti-national. There are many times when people in the world of business who are involved in making money or profit also are cheating. But nobody equates Mindtree, a respectable organization founded by a person of the stature of Subrata. Nobody equates Mindtree with those digital thieves operating out of Jamtara district of Jharkhand. Nobody labels them together. Likewise, as Srimati Birla was saying, nobody equates Birla Empire with fly-by-night business operators who cheat their workers and their customers repeatedly. I wish all of you collaborators from the government, from the media, from the business world would make that discretion when you label all civil society, all NGOs, all of us as a bunch of self-serving thieves. It pains me. It pains me after 40 years of my work. And I'm not alone. I'm talking on behalf of thousands like us. That today we do not receive the respect that we used to get earlier. We never had big resources. We never had big offices. We never had big salaries. We have had the occasion when senior IAS officers have come on sabbatical for 5 years and worked in PRIA. And their salary, even at that time, was 3 times my salary. Because we worked on trust, mutual respect. We valued their expertise and they valued our expertise. So, voluntary organizations, civil society, community organizations, those of us who did not make a career inside the government or in the world of business, whatever name you give us, we are not cheap, low-cost doers. We also have a mind of our own, expertise of our own. We are not merely service providers of programs designed by either CSR or Niti Aayog. We also have our expertise and mind to give inputs in the design of those programs and disagree in the design. And we are not only a place to provide certificates for internship of middle class and upper middle class boys and girls, which has become a fashion in the last decade. We are more than that. So I, on behalf of my fraternity, appeal to you to look at this collaboration from the principle of mutual trust. We do not undermine the role of business to make profit. Legitimate profit, treating its customers, employers, and the ecology within the law and also with sustainability. We do not dispute legitimately elected governments and their appointed officials to play the role that they are playing. We expect similar treatment. We expect to be respected for our expertise and to be trusted that when we speak about a particular issue or we bring uncomfortable information from the field to a meeting, we are doing it in the interest of ensuring that our programs and policies are implemented with the purpose and the money that is invested is utilized most efficiently. I think if we can recalibrate our relationships, practical collaborative steps can follow. Thank you very much.